Okay, guys, welcome to our first PowerPoint presentation for my 6th grade class. As you see on the screen, we're going to be learning 2 new definitions today, and I know you've been waiting anxiously to start doing definitions again. So, I hope you have your notebooks out, and I hope you're ready to take the notes on these 2 definitions. All right, first thing is our first word, and that is peninsula. Now, peninsula comes from 2 Latin words, paine and insula. Paine means almost, and insula means island. So what you have is almost an island. So what is it specifically? It is a tract of land projecting into a body of water, surrounded on 3 sides or nearly surrounded by water. All right, so we'll see examples of peninsulas now throughout the world. And the first peninsula we're going to look at is the largest of the peninsulas, and that is the Arabian Peninsula. That is the world's largest peninsula. You can see it is surrounded by the Gulf of the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. It is the world's largest peninsula, well over 1 million square miles. Jack, you're probably very familiar with this particular peninsula since you did your presentation on Saudi Arabia. So that is the largest peninsula in the world. Up next is one of my favorite peninsulas because after all I am half Italian. Maddie, you will appreciate this one, is the Apennine Peninsula. It is named for that mountain range you see in the back, that sort of white strip you see going through that Italy is the mountain range of the Apennines. And you see the boot shape with the heel and the toe kicking the island of Sicily. So that is the Apennine Peninsula in Europe, one of the peninsulas we already studied. Coming up next, Annabelle, take note. A large part of this particular peninsula is in Quebec, which is in Canada. And this is the Labrador Peninsula. That whole peninsula is, that whole red area is considered the Labrador Peninsula. You'll see it's surrounded by Hudson Bay, James Bay, Hudson Strait, Davis Strait, and then the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of St. Lawrence, all of those bodies of water surrounding it. And the St. Lawrence River itself. That little peninsula that is pointing up at the top in the northern part toward the Hudson Bay has got a great name. It's always been one of my, it's a peninsula in its own right, and it's called the Ungava Peninsula. It's just a fun thing to say. So if you want to say Ungava, you can say that right now. That is the Ungava Peninsula. Now we have India. But India is that giant triangle that is sticking into the Indian Ocean is the Deccan Peninsula, named for the large plateau in the central part of India known as the Deccan Plateau. So to you, this would look just like India. When we start studying Asia, you will learn a lot more about this country. But this is the Deccan Peninsula. A very famous peninsula for all of you Old Testament fans. This is the Sinai Peninsula. You'll see it borders, it is surrounded by water almost completely, except for that little bit of the Isthmus of Suez that connects the land. This would be a peninsula that is almost completely surrounded by water. The only thing, and a little bit of Israel there. It's out into the Red Sea. Sinai Peninsula, and that's the Sinai Mountain where Moses received the 10 Commandments in the background. The Sinai Peninsula is where Moses spent 40 years with the people of Israel after they fled Egypt. And now 2 very famous peninsulas. Maybe you don't know them, right? But it is the Chukotka and the Seward Peninsulas. Now, why are these so famous? Because many scientists theorize that those 2 peninsulas at one point during the Ice Age had a land bridge that connected them, or at least ice in any case. And what many people believe is that the people of Asia traveled across that land bridge, and that is how the Amerindians arrived in North America from Asia, crossing the connecting bridge between the Chukotka Peninsula and the Seward Peninsula. But again, it is just a theory, but it is widely held. Now, on to our next definition. Great word, you see it up at the top there, fjord. You can say it, it's not fjord, it's fjord. And what is a fjord? You see a picture of it in the background. That water you see there, by the way, is sea water. It is a salt water, because the fjord is a deep, narrow inlet of the sea with high, rocky, parallel sides, smoothed by ice action. As it says below, it's a prominent feature of the coast of Norway. You will notice the steep sides and on each side of the fjord. What do we mean by smooth by ice action? Well, there used to be a glacier that inhabited that particular area. And as the glaciers receded at the end of the Ice Age, they left behind these beautiful natural features known as fjords. And we're going to look at some of the more famous ones in the world. The first fjord we're going to look at is the largest fjord in the world, and it's the Scoresby Sund, it is called. And it is along the coast, the northeastern coast of Greenland. And you can see it there in a satellite version of the map, and you see this fjord as a main entrance, and then it channels into 3 or 4 or 5 other fjords. All of that is seawater going into that particular fjord. So it is a beautiful place, and in fact, many adventure travelers like to travel up to this particular fjord as well in the few months that you can in the summertime in Greenland. This is the largest fjord in Norway. It is the Sogne Fjord. And you see the beautiful, and you can even see, if you look in the background of that picture of the fjord, you can probably see what is a cruise ship. Cruise ships, there are adventure cruises you can take into the fjords of Norway, and it's a very popular spot for its beauty. You have to stay far away from the sides, though, because these cruise ships are in danger of getting hit by rocks if they get too close to the sides, because sometimes the rocks break off these cliffs and come splashing down in the water, and a rock hitting the boat would be an unfun way to spend your vacation. Now, why the big dramatic curtain opening? Well, there is a reason for the big dramatic curtain opening, and that is that this is the Lysefjord. Okay, the Lysefjord is amazing because this particular fjord is home to the sport, if you want to call it a sport. Some people would call it kind of crazy. It's the sport of base jumping. And there's a particular mountain on there that overhangs the fjord, and what people will do is they will jump off of these high steep cliffs and free fall for several seconds, 6-8 seconds of just pure free falling. They have a parachute on their back, or they're wearing those sort of bird suits that people wear, and they float down to the bottom of the fjord for safety. It's 1,000 feet plus of a drop there, and it is quite an interesting sport. And for your viewing pleasure, I have a video of people jumping off into the mountain is called Kudrag, and I have people jumping off into the fjord, the Lysefjord. So I hope you enjoyed that video. It always gives me little willies in my stomach when I watch that one. But that was the video of base jumping from the Lyse Fjord. Thank you for joining me today in this project where you get to learn a couple of new definitions. I'd like to thank Oliver Flynn, who, my son, helped me create this PowerPoint presentation, and I hope you learned a lot from it. So thank you for watching, and make sure you get all of that good stuff down in your notes.